Welcome to Fusing the Unfusable. Today we have a special guest, Tarik Kaddoumi. Tarik is an entrepreneur and data scientist with a very varied and rich expertise across projects, startups, and industries. He got started very early in Bitcoin in 2012, launched a company that had 400 Bitcoin ATMs in 2014. He was head of social media for Google and the soft power committee for the UAE space program. Tar is an investor in a security company and has a coffee business. He also teaches astrophysics and space habitat engineering. Welcome to the show, Tar. It's great to have you.
How's it going?
Good. You have a degree in computer engineering, but you also studied consumer psychology and marketing.
Yeah, these kind of things like fell into place later on through my career. I just thought, okay, I'm a bit curious about something. Let me go learn it. And I just kind of, sometimes it's like official academia, or sometimes it's not, just like reading books. And it just kind of like worked out like that one.
Yeah, last time I repaired my car, I used YouTube. So
same here.
So, let's get into it. 2012, a lot of us wish we had gotten into Bitcoin at that time. How exciting was it to be part of the early adopters of Bitcoin in 2012? And tell us about this project in 2014 with the Bitcoin ATMs.
So, well, at the time, it wasn't like something that felt exciting. It was scary because I'm kind of like, it feels like a conspiracy theory or something that, you believe, but nobody else believes. Everybody thinks it's a scam or something like that. You put your money into it and everybody thinks, like, Tarik, you're a little bit crazy. So many people I spoke to about this at the time who were calling me crazy. A few years later, they started getting into blockchain companies here and there because we had so many startups. And they'd now ask me for expertise or anything like that much later on, although they denied everything I was talking about. So it wasn't really an exciting time. It was a scary time. And it was exciting in a form of a hobby as well. So I found out about Bitcoin around end of 2011, but I never really got in until 2012. It was about $70 a Bitcoin. Funny that we're now, already past 70,000. Not today. Today we have a horrible crash today. But it was kind of a weird time, and it wasn't just a matter of buy Bitcoin as much as possible. Nobody knew what's going to happen. And of course, when you buy at 70 and it goes to 200, you sell everything you have, So, I mean, if I knew what I know now, I would have obviously kept everything. And, it was normal to see a wallet with over 1,000 Bitcoin with you or your friend or anything like that. So that's kind of like how it started off. But now looking at it, it was cool. But back then, it was kind of scary. So
then there's a couple of projects that happened. One of them is the Bitcoin ATMs, which didn't take off but I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, so no, it did actually happen. We had about 15 or 16. We never really got a confirmation how many were actually on the ground. So what happened is there was a lot of coincidences that happened during that time. So somebody posted a tweet about a Bitcoin ATM that was in Canada that was supposed to be shipped over to Dubai, and that was going to be Dubai's first Bitcoin ATM. What that person didn't know, his name is Chris, and me and him are like best friends now. But what that person didn't know at the time is that we were already working on Bitcoin ATMs. So what we did is a partner of mine and me, we started a Bitcoin company called Umbrella, based on Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil, because we're geeks. So we started this company to do Bitcoin transactions. We started building Bitcoin exchange bridges between people who want to set up an exchange and existing exchanges, so that you don't have to actually set up an exchange, because regulation was a little bit iffy. Nobody knew what the hell's going on. So what we do is piggyback on existing ones that have regulation. So we partnered with an existing ATM partner that have the hardware, and what we do is we built the Bitcoin software on top of it, so that you would go to any of those kiosks or ATMs, and you can do various services on there, like let's say top up your phone bill or anything like that. So we applied the mechanism being able to buy and sell Bitcoin on it as well. So you'd put in cash and it'll send Bitcoin to you, to your wallet. And they had some steps and stuff. And then we posted that on YouTube and so on. People started seeing it. And then at some point we saw that tweet that Chris has put up about this Bitcoin ATM. And then we panicked because we were launching in about 1.5 months from the moment we saw the tweet. And they were, I think, looking at maybe having the ATM in Dubai in a couple of weeks. And we're like, no way they're going to be first. So we tweeted back saying, no, you're not going to be the first one in Dubai. Here's a warehouse of 400 Bitcoin ATMs that we're going to be launching next month. So we had to kind of rush the job. And then we started with 2. And the first 2 that were launched were in... I believe it was called Impact Hub inside Souk al-Bahar in Dubai, which is kind of like an accelerator, incubator type thing. So we had 2 there. There was like an event called Bitcoin Talk by, and it's, I think, Ola Dudin's first Bitcoin talk ever, and she was part of a company called Nile that was also going to be a peer-to-peer exchange at the time. And it was just, everything was a bit chaotic at the time. So we launched them there, and we had queues on them. And then at that point, it became like, yes, this is Bitcoin, the first Bitcoin ATM in the Middle East. And then we were launching 400. So a few weeks into it, we had about 15 or 16 out somewhere in Dubai Mall. There was one in Sharaf DG and so on. And then that's when we got a phone call saying, what licensing do you have? And of course, this stuff doesn't exist yet. And slowly, basically, we got into a few debates and discussions with authorities and so on about that. And then what happened is the partner we were with that had the machinery, they ended up pulling out because of pressure about this. And we couldn't actually maintain those ATMs. Or that maintain the ATM operation, and we had to actually pull out everything. So we had 400 that were ready, 16 or so were deployed, and the others were going to be in the next month or 2 across the entire UAE. That would have been the biggest ATM network, I would say, when it comes to Bitcoin worldwide. But it got exciting, and then sadly, things got a bit sour. Can tell you a few details off camera, but that's pretty much how the project really went. It was a bit weird.
It's a great story, and who knows what would have happened had that.
It did go crazy at the time because the media went crazy. We were on like Bloomberg, and we were on Forbes magazine, Middle East, of course, but like Bloomberg, CNN, worldwide. We had Al Arabiya had interviewed us as well. The media just went nuts about it. Even like all the like CoinDesk and all these. At the time, CoinDesk was the biggest crypto news. I think now it's Cointelegraph probably, but back then CoinDesk was the biggest. They came to interview us as well. They actually flew in to see them. And it's quite big news at the time. Sure. Nobody's done anything like that at that moment. But of course, time has kind of buried that story. There's a lot more bigger things now.
Yeah, we can talk at length about that. Let's jump to the next point I wanted to discuss with you. You mentioned consumer psychology. I like behavioral economics. I think they're linked. One of my favorite books is called Nudge by Thaler. What drove you to that topic, and why are you so passionate about it?
Just by chance, actually. I was when I finished my engineering degree. One of the first job I had. First job I had was working at a bar, but the first real job I had in my field was coding for a marketing agency. And at that point, it was 2003. At that point, websites was like the new thing. For businesses to have a website was not really a common thing yet. It was like some .com companies, but like Yahoo was famous and so on. Google had just started a few years back. But to have a website wasn't a big thing. So I started there as a developer, and everybody else were graphic designers using, things like Adobe was new as well as a design suite and so on. So a few of the old school marketing people were there, like people who were, marketing since the 80s and 90s that were working with me. And they were like, man, it's like beautiful how they see marketing, the way they look at the market, and how the creativity of thought, linguistics, and so on. And consumer psychology was one of the things they would use in their methodology. But I never heard of that term before in my life. Like I didn't even know that was a thing. So I worked on a project called Flirt Easy, which is kind of like a speak easy bar type thing, but it's kind of like a speed dating thing. So they came to the agency and they wanted to do some marketing, and part of it was the website. So I'm developing the dating algorithm for that, which you start putting it like a matching algorithm and so on, like Match.com, but it was before that, and they would tell me about the psychology of how people should be matched and so on. And then the marketing guys, I would sit with them and they'd teach me a little bit about it. And I was just fascinated by it. So I started reading a few books that revealed to me things like which shelf in a supermarket has the cake that is for Bob the Builder or Thomas the Tank Engine. It's always at the bottom so the kids can actually throw a tantrum in a supermarket because the parents will then be obliged to buy it, because they just want to keep the peace and not call security. And I was just fascinated by this. Like, people actually are using emotional hooks to, change people's behavior in purchase behavior. So I started getting into it more and more. And then I studied it as a side thing, just like an online course and so on, then got myself a diploma in it. I never actually read Nudge, but it was in the studies I was doing, there was a lot of behavioral economic aspects from the Nudge book, because I think it's Richard Thaler, something like that. Is that his name?
Not sure if his last name, his first name.
And the architecture of choice was something that I never thought about, because it completely destroyed my view on philosophical free will. Like, what is free will? Do we even have free will? Which we can talk about for hours now as well. But it started making me rethink everything I know about this. And it actually helps me today a lot in trading, because financial trading and crypto trading is basically pure psychology. And if I had not studied this, 20 years earlier, I don't think I'd have the same understanding about it. And it's weird how these things just play into each other. And yeah,
it's fascinating for me. And actually, the original writers that wrote about buying, his name is Paco Underhill, and he wrote Why We Buy and The Call of the Mall. And the way they were doing research back then was actually have people in the shops following shoppers. Now we have data, right?
Yeah,
so,
of course.
So it's different. I wonder what he's written since.
Why We Buy is a great name for a book.
Yeah,
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, it's all based on I think they call them shadow shoppers. They will send people into the stores, following people, and taking notes. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah,
it's really crazy how data's changed all that, right? And now with AI and and they have cameras that can detect how you feel, and
because we do that with interface design as well now, like UX and UI. You have screens that are equipped with cameras that do like eye movement prediction and eye movement scanning. And we use that a lot in website design as well.
Absolutely. This is part of the UX, and this is one of the big topics for us, because it is one of the biggest obstacles we have in the industry in Web3. So, I'd like you to talk about some of the businesses, and to have the chance to talk some of the businesses you're working on, and let's see if we can help you get the word out. What are you involved in? And I know that you have a coffee business as well.
Yeah. So I just started my latest passion project. Definitely, it's a passion project. It's not something I started off thinking about profit, and it just started by chance. I was working at the space agency at the time, or the space center, the space program, UAE space program, and I was sitting in a cafe, and the owners came to me, and this is Cave in Al Sarkal Avenue in Dubai. And they came to me and asking me, what do I think about the coffee? And we had this discussion about it and so on, and gave them an honest opinion and so on. They were like, just as part of the conversation, they were like, well, how could we improve it? And it was just a conversation they had with somebody that said to them, by the way, ask Tarik, he knows a lot about coffee. And I've been really into coffee, and like the barista training, did that many years ago. And I have my own like espresso machine. I just like go, let's say, knees deep into the coffee world. And just because I love the taste of coffee, nothing else. I never really thought I will start anything with it. Never thought I'll start a cafe. And for me, that was always an idea that I will maybe start a coffee shop later when I retire, that dream of a farm and a bed and breakfast somewhere by a cliffside, And then we had this conversation. They asked me what I think about it and what could be improved and so on. And just it's just like fluke, I was like, I could maybe build something that could make it better. And then they're like, why don't you? And it just was like literally in the moment. And I went home, couldn't sleep. I was doing the numbers on Excel, like you can kind of like picture like a dark room, and then there's light on my face purely because of the laptop in bed, like looking at Excel sheets, putting the numbers through. And yeah, it worked out. And then I started this, got a small counter. I have a passion for carpentry, so I built it all myself because I like it. And yeah, I got the best machinery out there because it was a passion project. I didn't think I'm gonna go with like the cheapest machine possible or anything. I just went for the top of the range because I just loved the product. I wanted to make the product that I believe is the best coffee out there. And of course, it's subjective totally, but you know, so is everything you taste, right? But yeah, so within about a month and a half, we were up and running.
Amazing.
And yeah, so we opened in June 3 years ago, and yeah, just like a couple of weeks ago was the 3-year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's called B612, named after the asteroid planet of the Little Prince that the Little Prince lives on. And yeah, so it's kind of moved on now. It's kind of like we're still running the coffee shop. I'm looking for expansion locations now, just trying to suss out what's out there in the market, and it's tough, man. It's tough to find a good location. And we roast now as well, so we sell to a couple of hotels, a few restaurants and cafes buy from us as well, like our beans.
So you roast, and do you have a?
No, so we're doing contract roasting, so
Okay.
which is a quite a cool way that allows you to be able to do the coffee roasting as per how you want to do it with the expertise of your team and so on, without having to actually own
And having to invest in all that.
Yeah, of
equipment,
course.
yeah.
And I rely on other like owners and baristas of other roasteries and so on, because you know they help us out and so on, and we have like partners and they're really amazing. I mean, there are existing roasteries, right? But it's just really an amazing ecosystem. And of course, there are the people who don't want to help you. They don't care. They, you know, they want you to fail and so on. But the partners we have are just amazing. They've been with us since the beginning and just like so cool.
Well, I can't
yeah.
wait to go and try it. I mean, I've been there. I've been to the cave,
Yeah.
but I haven't tried the coffee.
Yeah, let me know when you are, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll get you to try Chinese coffee, which nobody knows exists, but it's really good.
You have to try Haitian coffee.
Okay.
I lived in Haiti for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah.
so I'm a big fan. So Haitian blue is better than Jamaican blue.
Okay. Let's try that.
We'll have
You
to get
any?
some here. I wish.
Yeah.
So, you know, back to crypto for a little bit here. As an expert, you know, and there are a lot of people that are scared, you know, like test transactions, probably the best way to do it.
Most
you make
people today are scared.
Yeah. So what are some of the tips that could help us reduce some risks? One that freaks me out are browser extensions.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, what are some of your tips and ideas about that?
With browser extensions, you mean like sort of wallets that
Wallets,
are
yeah.
self-custody wallets on browser extensions? Yeah, I mean there's always a difficulty when it comes to cybersecurity with that. And also, if you lose your keys and so on, it's as I say, not your keys, not your cheese. But so the question is about security, or
yeah, I mean about security. I think you probably use cold wallets, right?
I do as well. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. For me, it was more about, you know, what tips, enlightenment, what's coming up. Are there any new wallets that are using online wallets?
No, I'm a little bit more old school. I use mostly, I mean, it's a controversial opinion. I'm sure people will hear this, and maybe you will think it's a little bit short-sighted in a way, but I'm much more into the purity of the crypto ecosystem, and I'm all for Bitcoin. I do believe some other altcoin or other crypto projects are good, and some of them, like Ethereum, for example, was brilliant when they first made it. I think the merge was the dagger in the heart of Ethereum. I think it will fail eventually because of that, because of changing it from proof of work to proof of stake. And for people who don't know how that works, is that basically proof of work is almost like the direct correlation between the expenditure of energy into extracting value, the same way we have it today with gold or oil mining or extraction. And Bitcoin works in that way, so does Dogecoin and other ones. Ethereum wasn't the same system. And then for some reason, Ethereum thought it might be a good idea to join another theoretical view on crypto, which is a proof of stake, which favors the elite. Basically, rather than how much energy you exert into the extraction of value, the person who has more, of course, a little bit more complicated than that, but in essence, it's the people who have more will have more favorable outcome of extracting more value. And that elitism is eventually will kill crypto, because crypto has a much more libertarian view of value overall. And to change Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake using not very accurate, almost a manufacturing of consent of the community by saying climate change is a ridiculous idea. And I, of course,
being coming from the proof of stake side, I see your point, and I think your view on Ethereum is your opinion, and I can see why
I love them. I truly love them.
But I think that there are other models of staking and of proof of stake that are up and coming that will hopefully maybe change your mind, or we'll see. We'll talk about that in the future. And I mean, to me, this topic, like, I love Bitcoin. I think it's a reserve currency. It's something for the future. I understand that part about energy. I love the way Michael Saylor describes it, that you could basically use it to export energy from a place that is, where energy is cheap, to sending it across the world in a few minutes. And I think it has a place to stay. It's going to stay. But I think there's room for the digital transformation of everything else that we do. The economy doesn't require that kind of approach. And I think there's room for other approaches. Hopefully there,
I'm not saying it's a bad way to do proof of stake. What I'm thinking is based on certain views on energy versus elitism of value. That's basically it. Doesn't mean it's gonna fail.
So on your point about elitism and how people control, there are the algorithms, the consensus algorithms are a bit different. Not all of them are just purely on the people with the most tokens get the most vote. There's ones that we're working on, which has a reputation scoring and various other things.
Yeah, pretty much like Cardano and Solana's architecture are pretty cool. I think it's a little bit superior to Ethereum, just Ethereum was the first, and the vast majority of the altcoin ecosystem is based on Ethereum, and I think slowly it will change. For about 5 minutes, I really liked Binance Smart Chain, but that 5 minutes was over 5 minutes after I found out. But I think there are a lot more. I mean, of course, it's a massive ecosystem now. But I would love to see what you have.
I mean, I like use cases. I like digital transformation, and I'm looking at the bigger picture. So as a final point, I know you're a purist in Bitcoin, and what do you think is the biggest obstacle to mass adoption, if you actually believe in mass adoption?
Yeah, I do.
What would you say is the biggest obstacle? Is it, we talked about behavioral economics or consumer psychology? Is it UX? Is it regulation? What are your thoughts?
So, like, looking at it from, let's say, my view of it 12 years ago when I first heard about it, to where we are today. Back then, it was like, it's going to be the modern money, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, like maybe just 5 years into it, around 2016, 17, I started realizing that it's not going to happen, because that was the first time we started having ridiculous fees on Bitcoin transactions. Because when I first joined Bitcoin, you could literally go to a pizza shop, and it was kind of like not showing off, but like the first Bitcoin transaction that was kind of publicly out there. We tweeted about buying a cookie from the Pizza Guys, which is a small pizza place that closed now in Business Bay. And it was easy to do that, kind of like, it was 8 dirhams. So it's about, $2, $2.50. Huh?
For the cookie.
For the cookie, yeah. It was a massive like chocolate chip cookie and so on. So it's about $2 that we spent on Bitcoin, and the fees were negligible. And that was fine to do at that point, like 2013, 2014. And then looking at 2017 and how the fees were and how slow the transactions were, and sometimes you would wait an hour. That's when it was a little bit clearer that it's not going to happen. And then, of course, a few years later, Lightning came out. And I think mass adoption is going to have to happen on a form of a side chain or a fork or something like that. Maybe Lightning is the solution. I don't know yet. It's too early to tell. But as a store of value, I think it's flawless, because the same way, there's not many people that, considering the 7 or 8 billion people we have in the world, not many people have gold, right? So imagine that ecosystem. I think Bitcoin would work in a very similar way. It's not going to be the money that we use every single day to buy a coffee, right?
We're hearing now that banks are going to use it as a hedge for their currency. So
yeah, as a hedge, the same way they keep gold.
We don't know what's going to happen, right? I describe the whole crypto space as we're in the Stone Age. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's going to happen. We're at the chiseling of a boulder in order to move it stage. Yeah. But the wheel, the turbine, the bicycle, the car hasn't been invented yet. We need to keep working.
It's true.
And thinking and building things so that we will eventually get there, where we're really building things that people need and use. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be reserve currency.
Yeah. Like the transaction fee issue and the speed of transaction, if those two are solved, it might be possible for Bitcoin to become, and it wouldn't be called Bitcoin, it'd be called Satoshis. We're going to go at a much, much smaller fraction of what a Bitcoin is.
We have to.
And that would actually work out, but we don't have solutions for that yet.
Well, and there are some being built, and we'll discuss some of the ones that I'm thinking about in the future. Yeah. With that, we've come up on time. I really thank you so much for coming. I look forward to staying in touch more often, because the last time we met must have been in 2021. So it's been a while. So hopefully we'll catch up again. Thank you so much for coming.
And pass by for the coffee.
Yeah. All right. Oh, for sure. Cool. Thanks so much for joining us.
Awesome. Likewise. Great.